Hi everyone, good morning. I hope everything is okay with you guys. My name is Samanta Alves. I am one of the volunteers in the Spiritist Center of Ireland, and I am going to be your host today. And hopefully, we are going to have a good morning together, a morning of learnings, hopefully. But before we start, I just wanted to make sure everything is okay and you guys can hear me and can see me well, as always. So I'm going to check my phone as well. But if you can just give me a sign. It seems like it's working here. So I'm going to continue. And good morning, Camila. Okay, so it is working well. Perfect. Thank you so much, Camila. Okay, so today we are going to talk about thought, the creating force. But before we start, let's do our initial prayer. So if you want to close your eyes and raise your thoughts to Jesus, raise your thoughts to God, to our benefactors, to our spiritual friends. Let's ask for this morning to be very fruitful, that we can learn from the teachings of the Spiritism doctrine, that we can open our ears and our hearts for everything that we are going to talk about today. And from this learning, that we can bring love, peace, harmony to everywhere we go, to our homes, to our work, to our friends, to everything or person or anything that we come in contact with or that we touch in some way. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, dear God. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be alive, for everything that happens in our lives. And so be it. Okay, so good morning, Lidiane. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start. I have to say that for some reason my internet is not so good today. And if anything happens, just let me know, guys. Give me, send me a message or post something in the comments, and I'll be able to see, and I'll see what I can do. Okay, but so let's start. As I mentioned, we are going before. Let me just share my screen. Can you guys see my screen? I hope you can. I can see my screen here from my phone, but if there's any problem, just let me know. So, for us to talk about thought, and that's a very challenging talk, I think, because we need to understand some principles first, because otherwise it won't make that much sense. So let's start from the beginning and let's talk about the basic elements of the universe according to Spiritism, of course. So I think the basic principle that we need to start with is God, right? And according to the Spirit's book, question 1, what is God? God is the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. So the answer says it all. God is the supreme intelligence. So it's the first cause of all things, and we see that God exists just by looking around us. we can see it everywhere, basically, because it's so perfect, and it's so in harmony that it can only have a cause. And if we go further in this book, we can see in question 10, is humanity capable of comprehending the essential nature of God? And then the answer from the spirits is no. Human beings lack the sense required to comprehend it. So we are not able yet to understand the essential nature of God, or we know that God exists, but we don't understand it fully. And if we go a little bit further, we can see in question 11, will humans ever be able to understand the mystery of divinity? And the answer from the spirits is, when their spirits are no longer obscured by matter, and when they have finally purified themselves enough to be able to approach God, then they will see and comprehend God. And Kardec explains to us that the inferior nature of their faculties, the spirits, or our faculties, makes it impossible for human beings to comprehend God's essential nature. While humanity is in its infancy, people often confuse God with God's creatures, imputing to God their own imperfections. However, they ponder the nature of things more deeply as their moral sense develops, and thus they acquire a truer thought, though always incomplete, idea of God that conforms more to reason. So with time, and by the time we purify ourselves, we will be able to understand it more. So as human beings, but in the future as spirits, we'll understand it. The more purified we are, and the more perfect we are, the more we understand God. And just to give an example, it's basically like someone that is blind. If you explain color to this person won't be able to understand it fully if it never saw color, if it never saw light, if it never saw anything. So they can have an idea, but they won't understand it fully because it's not, they won't have the means to understand it. So we talked about God, and then we also have to talk about the spirit and the matter. And the reason why we need to understand these things is because I can show you this. So basically, this is us as human beings. So this is matter. This is the perispirit, which is kind of a mixture of matter and the spirit. I'm going to try and explain these concepts in a bit, even though it's very difficult, but I'll give it a go. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If I don't know how to answer, I will take note of your question and I can bring an answer for you in the comments, or I can even send it to you later on. And this is the spirit. Of course, we can't say it's exactly like that. This is just a drawing, so we can somehow understand, because they say a visual make how can I say, what's the saying? A vision is more well, it's better than 1,000 words. It's something like this, the saying, right? So I just brought this so we can have a visual of what we're talking about. We don't know if it's exactly like this. So this would be the spirit. Now, let's just try and explain these things one by one. Let me just make sure you guys okay here. Yeah, I don't see any comments yet. Cool. So the spirit, what's the spirit? The spirit is the essential nature, or the essential nature of spirit has yet to be revealed to humans or to us. In fact, the spirit tells us or the spirits or spiritism tells us that it is impossible to explain within the present scope of human language. However, they tell us that we can understand spirit as the intelligent principle of the universe. So the intelligent principle. This word intelligent is important because we will talk about other principles as well. So the spirit is the intelligent principle of the universe, referring here to a general element of the universe and not to a singular spirit, which are an individualization of this element. They tell us that intelligence is actually a quality of spirit, whereby spirit and intelligence are not true synonyms, but that because the two merge in unitary principle, they can, from the human perspective, be said to be the same. Just to make it easier for us to understand. A spirit is distinct from matter. So we are a spirit, but here on earth, we have our human bodies, which is matter. However, the union of spirit and matter is necessary to give intelligent activity to our matter or to our bodies. So from the human perspective, since our senses are designed to perceive spirit apart from matter, this union is also necessary for the manifestation of intelligent activity. When we speak of spirits as individual beings, we are referring to the individualization of this intelligent principle, or a major universal element. These spirits are the intelligent beings of the universe created by God. They are found either as incarnate spirits, meaning that they are at the time of reference, let's say, now, right? So incorporated in a material body and living in the material world as part of the process of incarnation, or discarnate spirits, meaning that they are or now, let's say like that, freed from a material body and living in the spiritual realm. So what's matter? Matter from the human point of view is generally conceived as something that occupies space and can be perceived by one or more senses and is impenetrable. So matter is basically something dense. Matter then is defined by a element that surrounds the spirit and upon which the spirit exerts its action. In addition to its union with the spirit or with the spirit being necessary for its intelligent activity, the other key point to understand about matter is that it's formed of one basic element. That the elements that we regard as basic, such as hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, and their chemical, physical building blocks, are really transformations of a more fundamental matter referred to as the cosmic principle. Now we're talking about cosmic principle. We're not talking about intelligent principle anymore. So intelligent principle would be the spirit and cosmic principle would be matter. So basically, matter has only two essential properties, force and movement. All of the properties of matter, conditioned by intensity, direction, and movement, are really only secondary effects of these two, which is force and movement. According to the different molecular arrangements of matter. So these secondary effects, such as flavors, colors, sounds, poisons versus medicinal qualities, etc., occur when elementary molecules undergo changes due to the interaction and combination with other molecules, or in response to environmental pressure. The spirits also point out that what we refer to as molecules is still very far from being the most elementary molecule. So it's what we comprehend so far. And then what is the perispirit? The perispirit is the subtle body that is used by the spirit to connect with the perceptions created by the brain. So as we mentioned, this would be the spirit, then this thing in the middle would be the perispirit, and this is the body. So we need the perispirit so we can unite our spirit with our body. And in the Spirit's book, question 93, is the spirit per se without a covering, or as some insist, it is surrounded by some kind of substance? The spirit is created by a substance that might look vapors to you, but which is still quite dense to us. Nevertheless, it is sufficiently vapors to be able to raise itself up into the air and travel to wherever it wants to go. As a fruit of a seed is surrounded, and then this is basically an explanation from Kardec so we can understand it a bit better. So as a fruit of a seed is surrounded by the perisperm, the spirit per se is surrounded by an envelope, which by comparison may be called the perispirit. So let's imagine an avocado. So we have the seed in the middle, then we have that green part around it would be, according to our analogy here, would be the perispirit. And then we have the covering, the outermost part of the avocado, which would be the matter, the body. So Kardec also explains in the Media's book, he describes the perispirit in terms of a fluidic body with the following properties. It is made of the universal cosmic fluid. Again, we are talking about cosmic fluid or cosmic principle, which in different densities and states is the source of all matter. It encloses the spirit proper. It, as I mentioned, it encloses the spirit proper, as I mentioned, the avocado, the green part and the seed. So it encloses the spirit. It gives the spirit an appearance drawn from his previous life and his current state, serving as a shape by which the spirits saw each other. It sends forth fluidic emanations that can affect those around. Being subtle and semi-material, it is able to act as a bond between the physical body, the material, and the spirit, the immaterial. So it's the glue that glue them together. It allows the spirit to act with a matter other than that of its body to some extent. It is constantly under change as the spirit progresses and may eventually be harmed, even destroyed. It won't be necessary anymore when all spirits attain perfection. Now, we are going to talk about the universal cosmic fluid and its derivatives now. So we can get to the point of our main topic, which is the thought. So the universal cosmic fluid, we can also call it the universal cosmic principle, or we can even call it energy, the universal cosmic energy. As stated previously, the two general elements of the universal spirit and matter. So the primitive, most elementary condition of spirit is known as the intelligent universal principle. So the spirit, as I mentioned before, is the intelligent universal principle, or universal intelligent principle, or the spiritual universal principle. But it has to do with intelligence, right? And is the generating source of what we commonly refer to as a spirit, meaning an individualization of this element, an intelligent being of the universe. Comparatively, the most elementary condition or state of matter is referred to as the universal fluid, or the material principle. or the material fluid, if you can say like that. So it acts as an intermediary between the individualized spirit and less primitive varieties of matter, and is a function that is carried out through its great derivate, known as the cosmic fluid. Now, this is a little bit complex, but if we can simplify things, we can say that the cosmic fluid or the cosmic principle or energy is everything, is all around us, and is matter in general. So the original French texts from Kardec, and even several texts written more recently, use both the words fluid and principle. So that's why we say it's the same thing. So the cosmic fluid or cosmic principle, cosmic energy, is the irreducible and fundamental constituent of all matter. It is essentially a more refined form of matter with an independent existence of its own. Every form of matter as we know it, as well as the energy phenomena that we know of today, such as heat, magnetism, and electricity, are only modifications of this basic element. And that's why I said it's all around us. So air or heat, electricity, those things we not necessarily see it, but it's here and it exists. So according to science, we studied when we are a child, all matter such as solids, liquids, and gases is composed of atoms. And atoms, as I mentioned before, is the cosmic principle. Therefore, the atom is considered to be the basic building block of matter. However, atoms are almost always grouped together with other atoms to form what is called a molecule. Because it holds properties common to both the spirit and matter, the cosmic fluid acts as an intermediary between them, allowing the individualized spirit to act on matter. So there's something common between the spirit and matter. And as I mentioned, the perispirit helps this exchange between them. And the matter is too dense for the spirit to act upon directly. Hence, in the guidance of spirits and in combination with denser matter, which are already modified forms of the cosmic principle, the cosmic fluid or the cosmic principle can be used to produce an infinite number of things, many of which we still have much to learn about. In chapter 14 of the Genesis, Allan Kardec provides an elaboration of this definition of the cosmic principle, clarifying concepts that are essential to our understanding of the interaction between spirit and matter and the environments of the spiritual and material world. So here's a summary of that explanation. The universal cosmic fluid is the fundamental constituent of all matter. It assumes two extreme states with a gradient of variation within each state and between the two. One state is that of materialization, which gives rise to phenomena of the visible material world. And the second state is the etherealization, and it gives rise to the phenomena of invisible world. Modifications of the cosmic fluid, while still in the state of etherealization, form an infinite variety of distinct fluids with varying levels of purity. These are referred to as spiritual fluids and form the material of the spiritual world. Many of these spiritual fluids escape the perception of our human senses and instruments. Others are intimately tied to the corporeal life. The latter are the fluids that are close to the point of materialization and the least pure. They make up what is referred to as the spiritual atmosphere of the earth, and they are in constant interaction with the material realm, whereby they affect and are affected by the beings of the beings that inhabit it. So let's imagine the cosmic fluid as the atmosphere, or not living, but staying together with the atmosphere of Earth. So as I mentioned before, it's like air. It's all around us, the cosmic fluid. So now, what does it have to do with the power of our thoughts, which is the main topic? So it has to do with with our topic, because the spiritual fluid, the cosmic fluid, is the vehicle of thought. So the spiritual fluids are like the matter of the spiritual helm. The spirits act upon these fluids, manipulating them by combining them, dispersing them, and etc. So, in other words, organizing them in such a way to create a desired appearance of form, just as we do with the solids, liquids, and gases of the material world. The mechanism used for doing this is a combination of thought and will. Sometimes these transformations are the result of intention. Other times they are produced by unconscious thoughts. So with our thought, we create this image, we manipulate the cosmic fluid. There are some other key points to understand regarding the role of spiritual fluids as the vehicle of thought. Fluids carry thoughts just as the air carries sound. So it's basically the same thing. The sound is like a wave that moves through air. So our thought could be said to be the same, like a wave moving through the cosmic fluid. This means that in these fluids, there are waves and rays of thoughts crossing one another without mixing, just like the diverse sound waves traveling simultaneously through air. So fluidic images are created when a spirit focuses its thought on a particular idea, action, person, thing. Via these fluidic images, the spirit's thoughts are then reflected in its spirit's body, where they take form as if they were photographed. This is how one spirit can read the thoughts of another, including its day-to-day preoccupations, desires, and intentions. So fluids, not having their own intrinsic qualities, acquire their characteristics from the environment in which they are found. As a vehicle of thought, they are imprinted with the qualities of those thoughts, which in turn determine the level of vibration in this fluid. And vibration, again, like the sound. So this is how spirits, both incarnate and discarnate, affect the fluidic quality of their given environment anywhere from a spirit's personal energy field, meaning the fluids that circulate close to the spirit's body, to a room in a building, or to a planet as a whole, depending on their strength and the thought waves and the space and number of spirits in question. So morally negative, adverse thoughts from inferior spirits pollute the fluids, while positive, virtuous thoughts purify the fluids and the environment. The fluids also do not follow any particular system of classification. They are characterized by their properties, their effects, and their originating types. So Kardec says in the Genesis, from a moral standpoint, they hold the nature of sentiments like hate, greed, jealousy, pride, selfishness, violence, hypocrisy, as well as those such as goodwill, benevolence, love, compassion, tenderness. And from a physical standpoint, then can be calming, they can be exciting, they can be penetrating, they can be astringent, they can be irritating, they can be sweetening, they can be toxic, they can be even medicinal. So they can become a force of transmission, propulsion. Yeah, propulsion. I think that's the word. And spirits do not only affect the spiritual environment, they are also affected by it. This is because, like Kardec says, as the environmental fluids are modified by spirit's thought projections, the spirit, a constructive part of its entire being, receives a direct and permanent impression made by those thoughts, and will hold their good and bad qualities. This impression is made by a spirit's own thoughts, and to some degree by the qualities of the thoughts of other spirits occupying the same environment. Under the influence of these fluids, the perispirit in turn reacts upon the material organism with which it is molecularly attached, whereby the material body will experience a healthy or negative impression, depending on the fluid's qualities. And the qualities of these fluids are the key to understanding how spirits are attached to one another through a spiritual affinity, be it a positive or a negative moral nature. So, Spiritism teaches us about the coexistence of the material and spiritual worlds and the ways in which they influence one another. According to the Spiritism literature, the thoughts of both incarnate and discarnate spirits affect the vibrational environment of both worlds by imprinting their qualities on the spiritual fluids common to both realms, especially when considering the spiritual realms closest to Earth. In addition to affecting one another, by influencing the whole environment in general, spirits can again, through the will of their thought, exert direct influence on one another in much the same way. So before we continue, let me just check if there's any question. Okay. No questions so far. Let's move on. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 27, item 10, Kardec explains how this works. So, we should first consider that all beings in both the physical and spiritual realms are immersed in the cosmic principle that occupies space, just as we on Earth are enveloped by the atmosphere. The cosmic principle reacts to impulses of will, and thoughts travel through it as sounds travel through air. The chief difference is that while sound vibrations are limited in reach, those of thought travel infinite distances in the cosmic principles. When a thought is directed at someone on Earth or in the spiritual world, from an incarnate to a discarnate being or vice versa, a current of energy is established between them that transfer the thought from one to the other, just as air transmits sound waves. The power of the current is relative to the strength of the thought and the desire. This is how spirits, no matter what, or no matter where they are, hear the prayers directed to them. It's how spirits communicate with each other and how they send their inspirations to us. Finally, it's how incarnates can potentially establish telepathic contact with each other, even at a distance. So this is very powerful. And in the Spirit's book, to understand a little bit more about this spiritual influence by thought transfer, we see that in question 459, Kardec asks, do spirits have any influence on our thoughts and actions? And the answer from the spirits is, their influence on you is, in this regard, is greater than you suppose. For very frequently, it is they who guide you. So there is what we call affinity or attraction. And if we let it happen, we can be very much guided by something else other than ourselves, on our own thoughts. So spirits of different moral and intellectual qualities are all around us, attempting to persuade our thoughts or the influence of thought. What allows us to pick up on the thoughts that are directed towards us is our affinity with the spirit that created them. Or in other words, the level of attunement between the moral nature of our thoughts, desires, attitudes, tendencies, behaviors, etc., with those of the spirit. Think of it like setting a frequency on a radio. In order to hear a certain kind of music or program, the kind of thoughts and actions that we cultivate set our mind to a given vibrational frequency, whereby we will tune in to the spirits that are on the same frequency as our own, due to a similarity in nature. Not only does our own nature open this door, if you will, to like-minded beings, it also attracts them. So thought, or actually, though most of us cannot see the spirits, they can, when interested, see us. But more than that, their heightened senses, in terms of their freedom from the material body, allow them to see our thoughts, desires, and intentions, whereby they will be drawn to us and recognize the increased probability of receptivity. So we have good influences and we have bad influences. And we are focusing here on spirits, mainly discarnate, that exert some influence on us, but it can even be incarnate spirits. Because as we mentioned before, we like attract like. And we are all the spirits, incarnates or discarnate. So it can happen both ways, and even here, human beings to human beings, because essentially we are spirits. So the quality of spirits themselves determine how they look upon us, as well as their objectives, should they attempt to communicate with us. So good spirits emphasize with those, or empathize with those who are good or who want to improve. They offer good advice, they warn us of potential dangers, they console us in our afflictions, rejoice with us in our successes, and encourage us to have strength and perseverance and as we undergo our trials. Good spirits also seek to advance through the influence of key individuals, the moral and intellectual progress of humanity as a whole. So hence the great scientific discoveries, peace efforts, etc., that we attribute to men and women on earth most often originate from inspirations given to those individuals by collaborators in the spiritual realm. In addition to the good and friendly spirits that help us out here and there, each of us always has one specific spirit, sometimes referred to as our mentor, or a guide, or a guardian angel, who is of a higher degree than our own and who accompanies us in a given incarnation from birth to death. This spirit helps us to make wise decisions, to they warn us of potential dangers, and they offer us consolation as well as uplifting energies, all through the work of intuition, mental suggestions that we choose whether or not to follow through our own conscience and discernment. And just as we benefit from the positive influence of friendly and good-willed spirits, we are also susceptible to unhealthy influences. When we open the door of influence through our own thoughts and actions, we are also susceptible to a spiritual influence of a negative nature. In some cases, this may come from frivolous spirits, those who simply enjoy playing with us, causing us little annoyances, and then laughing at our naivety or naivety, our intentions. But in more serious cases, we may, through our own tendencies or areas of weaknesses, such as self-centeredness, gossip, criticism, judgment of others, pessimism, or participation in self-destructive behaviors like alcohol abuse or drug usage, etc. So we attract spirits who are or who share in our behavioral tendencies and who take pleasure in exciting such behaviors in us, encouraging us and egging us on the first sign of temptation. Other ill-intentioned or unenlightened spirits may seek to bring us suffering through their harmful influence that encourages us anger or jealousy. The spirit who provokes negative thoughts and actions in human beings may do so with no specific motive, or may simply choose the person because he or she serves as a means to satisfy a general malice. In other cases, the spirit's intentions stem from a more deep-rooted hostility, as in the case with the spirit who follows and harasses one who is an enemy from a previous incarnation. But the frequency or the influences and suggestions that we receive from the spirits around us, and in particular those who we attract via vibrational affinity, are most often picked up as subtle intuitions in such a way that they appear to be our own thoughts or ideas. In this way, the suggestions do not interfere with our free will. They may come from external sources, but in the end, only we can make our own decisions, using our conscience and our knowledge to choose the actions we will take. God allow the inferior spirits to tempt us, for they serve as instruments through which our faith and constancy in doing good are tested. When we do not to negative suggestions, we overcome our temptations, we advance in our path of spiritual progression. Likewise, when we listen to the suggestions of good spirits and choose wisely, the merit is ours for doing so by using our own free will. To the contrary, however, when we do not follow their good advice, and when we listen to suggestions that lead us to opposite actions, the consequences we may suffer are only the effect of the cause that we created. So to protect ourselves from the influence of inferior, uneducated, or suffering spirits, we must keep our thoughts elevated as much as possible, thus working to keep from letting our guard down during those trying moments, and seeking to live always with compassion, faith, and determination. So why is it important to understand it all? Why is it important to understand everything that we said? Because the ultimate goal of all spirits is to attain the perfection that is susceptible to them or to us. The result of this perfection lies in the enjoyment of supreme happiness that is consequent upon us, and which comes more or less quickly according to our use of free will. The moments in lifetimes in which we use our free will in such a way that hurts or violates the rights of another, creating against or acting against God's will create doubts, or, as some say, bad karma, for which we must make amends. If we do not do so within the same lifetime, natural law will make it necessary for us to do so in a subsequent life. Through some form of suffering, serves as an expiation and a learning tool for our spirit. Such suffering is not punishment from God, but rather the manifestation of natural law, which is actually self-imposed by our own conscience. Upon awareness of its wrongdoing, the spirit feels a tormenting guilt. The relief it then seeks must be obtained through the acceptance of this suffering, with submission and resignation. For this reason, the opportunity to undergo such afflictions is actually a blessing from our Creator. In addition to a resignated acceptance, positive actions and kind behavior will help the spirit to ease its suffering. Between each material life, the spirit spends an even greater amount of time in its true home, the spiritual realm, where it has the opportunity to analyze its behavior and its last life, recuperate and re energize, study, and prepare for its next incarnation. As the spirit progresses from one life to the next, it will continue to make amendments for past mistakes, while most likely creating new debts, though less severe than previous ones along the way. It will continue making marks on its balance sheet, so to speak, until it is even or eventually able to eliminate all debts and negative tendencies, demonstrating only virtuous qualities. So, in this way, we are all the masters of our own destiny. Our actions directly affecting the amount of suffering we must endure and the speed at which we progress. God does not create us unequally, nor does he treat us any differently after our creation. To the contrary, he offers each of us the number of opportunities it takes to us to reach our ultimate goal of perfection and pure happiness as purified spirits. It does not punish us for our mistakes. He only requires us to make amends. In this way, what we are not able to finish in one life, we can do in another. So if these thoughts, they are all so important, and we need to understand how they work so we can use it in our favor, in our path to progression. How can we acquire and keep good thoughts then? Some suggestions that I have here, of course, each one will see what works better for them, or what they need to work on more or less, or what makes sense to them. But these are basically just suggestions, and those are I found in the Spiritism literature as well. So the first one would be kindness. Being kind to one another is essential, because usually, and this is actually a study that I saw, when we do an act of kindness, the benefit is much more on us than on other people, because it works. This study has proven that the same parts of our brain, when we do an act of kindness, that activate, is the same when we use cocaine, for example. So it's this excitement, this feeling of something really good. And our thoughts respond to our feelings as well. So emotion is a very big driver of thoughts. And when we do an act of kindness, we have this good emotion, this good feeling. So we irradiate this good vibration. So another thing is meditation. So there are a lot of studies that show the benefits of meditation. There are several benefits of meditation. And meditation does to our brain what going to the gym and working out does to our body. So it makes it sharp. We can focus. It benefits our nervous systems. So it suits our nervous system. It helps us even lose weight, helps us sleep, makes us happier, more peaceful person, makes us more productive, help us focus more. And it also, I think one of the main things, even through meditation, is that it shows that we are not our mind. So our tendencies, we can separate these even bad tendencies from our spirit. We can say, I know you're there. I acknowledge you, but I can do better than this. And you have this distance from these bad tendencies. You can look at it in a different way. You're not anymore defining yourself by this thing. Then another thing is gratitude, or actually, before we talk about gratitude, dancing or traveling or visiting someone you love, simple things like that can improve your energy. And if you improve your energy, again, your thoughts are affected by it. And you, again, irradiating this good vibration. And then also gratitude. It promotes optimism and helps us to develop a more positive outlook. It helps us, or let us pause for a moment to reflect on something we have in our life right now instead of always striving for more. So the next goal, the next dress, the next toy, the next car, or the house renovation. The gratitude is simply cultivating a genuine appreciation for what we already have. And again, it shifts our emotion. So instead of focusing in what we don't have, we focus on what we have. Of course, we have our goals and our desires, and that's okay. But if we focus too much on those things, it's like we never had anything, and we do have so much. So take the time to change, again, your vibration by acknowledging what you have and appreciating it. And also treat yourself, treating your psychological wounds as well. So there's a guy called Guy Winch, that's his name, who is a psychologist and author of several books. One of his books is called Emotional First Aid and How to Fix a Broken Heart. So his idea is that we need to take care of our emotional state the same way as we take care of our physical state. So if you cut your arm or if you cut your hand, you go and you put some product in it, you clean it, you put a band-aid, or plaster, you take care of it. Now, if something happens to you psychologically speaking, we are not prepared to take care of it. We are not prepared to how can you say that, to take care, really, to take care of us in this situation. So we need to pay attention to our emotional pain. We need to redirect our gut reaction when we fail. We need to monitor and protect our self-esteem when we feel like putting ourselves down. We need to take a moment to be compassionate to ourselves. When negative thoughts are taking over, disrupt them with a positive distraction. What I do, and I think it works really well for me, is I do a Hawaiian practice that is called Ho'oponopono, and I think it's brilliant. Every time I'm thinking something bad, I start saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And that immediately changed my state. And I keep doing it until I think of something else. So it works for me. Of course, this practice has much more to it than just what I'm saying, but I think it works really well for me. Perhaps it's something I want to try. And finally, prayer. So prayer, in its simplest definition, is a conversation that we have with God. When we pray to God, it should be a humble dialogue with our all-powerful and benevolent Father. Why should we pray? So our religion teaches us that God is present always and in all places, that God sees us or sees all and knows all. So why do we really need to pray? You might wonder. If God knows everything about me, what am I thinking or what I need at all times? It is really necessary for me to spill it out? And after all, don't God's blessings extend throughout all the universe? If someone has such doubts, they should contemplate what they believe the true purpose of prayer is. We must not be confused. The objective of prayer is not to call God's attention to us. It is rather to bring ourselves, our minds, and our thoughts closer to Him. This changes the perspective a bit, doesn't it? It's true that God's blessings are all around us, but consider this analogy. What would happen if you stayed in a pool of pure water for a long period of time, surrounded by all the water you could ever need, but you didn't even open your mouth? You would die of thirst. Well, the same thing happens with prayer. It's like our way of opening our mouth, spiritually speaking, and becoming receptive to God's infinite blessings that are always there, ready to be taken. So prayer is one of the greatest resources that we have to confront the problems that we face here on earth, to conquer obstacles that previously seemed unbeatable. Imagine, if you will, a man alone climbing a mountain, hot, hungry, tired, and weary. He stops his travel temporarily to rest under a tree. This tree is a blessing for him, for the shade cools him, and he is able to rest his weary body and mind, with time even for introspection. So the fruit from the tree relieves his hunger. Soon after, with renewed energy, he is ready to pick up and resume his trek up the mountain. Just as this tree does for the mountain climber, prayer does for us. It gives us renewed energy and strength, keeping our minds turned to God. We remain strong in our faith, confident that we will overcome our trials, and conscious that we always have a spiritual mentor at our side. When we pray on a daily basis, in good times and bad, we establish a strong link with God and the spiritual realm, so that in difficult times, this voice, this promise of support, sounds loudly and clearly in our heart. The faith that we develop through this bond will give us strength and courage, the energy we need to overcome our problems, however trivial or serious they may be. So prayer needs to be from the heart. One of the most important points to remember is that our prayers must come from the heart. This is what will give the current of energy, the power to travel to the being that we are addressing. And it means that our prayer should be in a language we understand and in our own words, following naturally as a true expression of our sentiments. Kardec says that the spirits have always said to us, the form means nothing. The thought is everything. Say your prayers in a way that is in harmony with your convictions and in the way most inspiring to you, because a good thought is worth more than countless unfeeling and unfelt words. We should avoid the habit of repetition, which requires no concentration and becomes an easy movement to the lips, with beautiful words that flow from the brain to the mouth with no involvement of the heart. So we must pray from our hearts. And I think with that we come to the end. Let's see if there's any question. Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question here. Thank you so much, guys, for the comments. I see some comments here. So Lidiane is saying, thank you. Always happy to be with you guys. Good. We are always happy to have you guys here as well, Lydian. And Stephen is saying important topic, wonderful approach. Thank you, Stephen. I think it's a hard topic, and it's a bit hard to explain as well. But I hope it made sense and you guys took something from it. So before we finish, I just want to, as we always do, just to say that if you need to talk to somebody, you have the yourmentalhealth.ie website, and in the website you find advice on mental health, especially now during the coronavirus outbreak. You can text them to 086-1800-280. And this is their messaging support service, but you can also go to the website yourmentalhealth.ie and you're going to find tons of content there. And there's also the psychotherapyconsult.ie and the samaritans.org. The Samaritans have a phone number, so you can call them 116-123. And there's also this texting service by the HSC, which is 50808. And if you don't want to talk and you just want to text, this is just a texting service, so you can talk to them by text. Our bibliography today is basically the Spirit's book, the Genesis, the Gospel according to Spiritism, some websites that we used as well. And our activities, we have our public meetings in the form of lives for now. Every Sunday, like today, from 11:15 a.m. to around 12:15 p.m. We have our talk shows in the form of lives for now as well, every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:15 p.m. We have our study groups every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. And this is our Facebook page, Spirit Society of Ireland. And our email is spiritismireland@gmail.com if you want to send us an email, if you want to talk to us about anything. So that was it from me, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I don't see any other questions here, so I think we can just do our final prayer. If you want to close your eyes, raise your thoughts to Jesus, to our spiritual friends, to our mentors. Let's thank them for this morning, for everything that we learned, for their intuition, for their help, for their wanting or willingness to be with us always through our difficult times, or even during our good times as well. They never abandon us. God is always with us, and we appreciate this so much. We want to open our hearts and our minds to their influence, to their good inspirations, to their good vibrations. We want to be connected with them always, so we can use this connection to our benefit and to the benefit of others as well, to improve our own qualities and to help us in our path to progression. So be it. Okay, so happy Father's Day to all fathers everywhere. So I hope that they have a good day. This is a day that they are especially remembered, but every day is a Father's Day. They are so important to us. So a big kiss to my father. In Brazil, the Father's Day will be in August, but let's take the opportunity to send our hugs and our good vibrations to our fathers. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see you soon. Bye. Have a good Sunday.